So welcome to our Rotary meeting. It's wonderful to have you. We meet on the 2nd and 4th Saturdays, and today we have a special 3-panel of speakers. And I will share the announcements shortly. Okay, there we go. You're seeing my music video. That's what we listened to at the beginning. All right. Slideshow from beginning. I'm logged in twice so that you can see, I can see what you see on the screen. And I'll make sure the controls are off. Okay, so welcome to our meeting. We want you to have fun and engage, so you can use the chat and raise your hand or react to anything that you hear, especially if an idea pops into your head that you'd like to share or a wonderful gardening tip. So our theme today is from the litter picking that we did in April to intentional planting today. We want to create beauty and we want to create corridors for pollinators. And so I'm so honored to have with us today Katie Leavett-Brown, who is from Duncan Christian School, and she will be creating an outdoor classroom with her students from Biology 11, and she's going to tell us more about that. We have Nora with us from the Rotary Club of Duncan, and she's creating a special garden that I think too represents her very favorite things that she's downsized from a huge garden that was on the garden tour. So I look forward to hearing from you, Nora. And we also have Jasmine from Shawnigan Lake School, who will be talking about the Grow Dome project, which is very exciting that the students are working on. As we launch into our meeting, I also want to create a space, a safe space for you, and a space that respects that we are gathering here in Zoom on the traditional lands of the Hookanian speaking peoples here in Shawnigan who hunted and gathered in this area. We respect their caring connections to each other and to the places where we live, work, and play today. Everything we do here in Rotary is also covered by the 4-way test, and that's down in the lower left corner of your screen. Of the things that we think, say, or do together, we ask ourselves, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So I'm excited to launch our May EcoChallenge in the light of the 4-way test. Under our announcements, we grow vibrant leaders. This means we have volunteers who are into believing that Rotary achieves new things. And this is something that came up during our pre-meeting chat. So that's our acronym for Vibrant. And membership is currently still always open. In fact, we will be chartering later this month, but we're looking for people who want to make a positive difference in their community. And for just $5 a week, you can connect to the wide world of Rotary. So we encourage you to check out the benefits and how to apply at our website. Today's topic is absolutely exciting. I can't wait to dive in. And I can also tell you we'll be doing hands-on community service. We're just waiting for the go-ahead to beautify the Masons parking lot area and to perhaps even refurbish the signboard. And so I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like. I took some pictures yesterday. There's a lot of potential here. It's just grass and dandelions at the moment and a rusty signboard. So perfect material for Rotary to work with. We also have an update from Francis Kelsey High School. I have a daughter who goes there, and this came out in their newsletter for May this week. They have a need for summer caretakers to sign up to just work in the garden, to weed it and harvest anything that comes, that ripens and is needing to be picked. So I have the contact, and Julie Faye Parker, the vice principal, also asked me to be the keeper of the calendar for this activity. So we would like to actually reach out to the South Cowichan Rotary Club as well, since they have an active Interact Club there, and see if there's Rotarians and other community stewards who would like to weed and harvest, and we don't have to worry about watering. It's all taken care of with their irrigation system. So let us know if you're interested. Our club was featured in the news this week. I was excited to report on our litter picking and our collaboration with Shawnigan Lake School. And so please check out the May issue of the Shawnigan Focus. Well done, everyone. Ben Riel is at the top of that picture, and he sends his regrets because he's filling in for another swimming teacher. So he teaches swimming down in Saanich on Saturday mornings if he has to fill in. So you can see that the youth were keen and did a lot of work together here in our community. So well done all. You can see there's a lot more ground to cover, and we actually have 24 Litter Watch participants who have stepped up in their neighborhoods, and we've been getting thank you parcels out to them and letting them know that they can even be part of our Rotary Club and experience member benefits and coverage that way for the work that they're doing. So we're really excited to partner with this caring group of neighbors. We also have an ongoing partnership with the Shawnigan Basin Society in terms of our work outdoors and with nature. And Ed Weeb sends his regrets. Normally he's with us this morning, but he's leading a group into the forest again. So on Saturdays in May, they're doing an ancient forest walk to the giants of the Coquesila River area. And my turn, I signed up for, they tell me now it's May 22nd. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'll be reporting back to the group. And lastly, just a little plug for our next meeting later in the month. It's all about bikes, and we'll be hearing from Pamela Walker of the Yellow Point Trail Network, as well as Tanel Bolt of the RAD Society. And she is connected to adaptive equipment for users of all abilities. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Saturday, May 22nd. Please save the date. As well, we have a tentative charter party planned at Camp Pringle, a fireside party Sunday, June 6th from 4 to 6. So we're just waiting to hear what our provincial health orders tell us we can do in terms of gatherings. So thank you. And I'll take it back to our guest speaker and introduce Katie Leavett-Brown. So let me stop sharing the screen and make sure you can share the screen. Katie?
Okay, so
thank you, everybody. And I'll make you a co-host. Let's see, make co-host. And I'll do the same for our other speakers, so you're all set once you've had a turn. So just let me know if there's anything else I can do to help out for tech.
Okay, I think I can do this. We usually use Google Meet, which is a little different, but I think it's fairly similar. So just let me know if you can see this presentation.
It looks great. And yeah, slide view should be perfect.
Okay, great. So my name is Katie Leavett-Brown. I'm a teacher. I work at Duncan Christian School, and I teach sciences, usually high school sciences in the grade 10, 11, 12, a variety of physics and biology. I co-work with somebody else who does different sciences, such as chemistry, but I'm sort of a big picture scientist. So I like to look at things in community development and conservation. My background is actually in biology. I did a UVic biology degree and a conservation, like environmental degree through Rural Roads. So my background is actually in biology, but I became a teacher for the love of education, which I think is a big part of conservation as well. So thank you for letting me talk with you today. This is a meaningful project for me and my students, and I hope that you can share with me some input on what you think would make this project even better than it is right now. So Cowichan Sportsplex, Drew Cooper, I don't know if you guys know him, but he's retiring now this year, next month, but he was the coordinator there at the Cowichan Sportsplex. And in September, he asked me if I have any vision for this area behind Duncan Christian School. And the reason, I'll give you a little background, the reason that he was looking for this space to be used was, well, I'll go even further back. So originally, this little space right beside all the ball diamonds there, I don't know if you've been to Cowichan Sportsplex, but it was going to be torn down to put a new ball diamond in. And it's a wetland, and they found fish inside this wetland, and they told Cowichan Sportsplex that they weren't allowed to tear it down. So that's fine, except it posed a bit of a problem for them because they now had this big area with all sorts of tree cover that people were using as shelter to do drugs and things like that. And so they had this unwanted activity that he figured would be remedied by the use of community members. If people use that space, then ideally it won't be used poorly, right? People wouldn't make decisions to use it as shelter or as drug use areas if there was lots of traffic through the area with community members. So he said, what do you think? Do you have any ideas? Can you use this space so that we can try to have a healthy image of this torn down, kind of trampled on space? So I said, yes, absolutely. I have some ideas that can be used for education. So I went to WWF and they have a grant, a Go Wild School grant that I applied for. And I did get that. Every year they give that to schools that are doing projects such as this. So they gave me $500 to do whatever I needed to do in this area. And I also went to Ducks Unlimited, which helps with professional guidance on what you want to do in these wetland areas. And they've been very helpful as well. So all of these people, all of these community members have contributed so far to this project. So I'll go through in this presentation the 5 W's of the project to give you an overview of what we're doing. I'll tell you the where it is, the why, what we're doing, who is involved, when are we doing it, and then what exactly needs to happen. So where? This is a 9,300 meter squared area right behind Duncan Christian School of wetland and surrounding natural area. And it's right there in Couch and Sportsbacks, which is very convenient because it has a walking trail around it. So I don't know if you spent some time there, but you should go check it out. It's a really neat little track that they built through this natural area. So here's the location on a map. Here is the school down in the bottom right, Duncan Christian School. You can walk up past, behind the school, through the field and up past the track right into this nature area, which you can see here with all the trees. And this is very convenient for me as a teacher because I'm encouraged, especially with COVID, to get students out and about walking as much as possible, learning outside as much as possible to, of course, decrease the spread of the virus should it ever come to the school, but also just as a place-based learning environment. So without the need for permission slips and transportation, I can literally just stop my lesson in our school classroom and walk them to this classroom. So it very much is an outdoor classroom for me, being at Duncan Christian School. And that's why this location is so important for me and also for the surrounding area, the schools such as Quamitchin and other schools like that. Let me just tell you a little bit about these sites. There are 2 sites that I broke it up into. The middle site here is quite dense with plants and it's shaded. So the microclimate there is going to be cooler and darker. And the microclimate at site 2 is sunnier and hotter. And you'll notice actually in my data and in just in nature alone, if you think about your garden, you can plant shade tolerant plants in shaded areas and you would plant heat loving plants in other areas, right? And it's the same thing in nature. It selects for nature loving plants inside site 1, sorry, not nature loving, shade loving plants inside site 1 and sun loving plants out in site 2. And that's why I broke it up, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And you'll see that it does actually make a big difference, even though it's such a small microclimate. So this is a quote from Ducks Unlimited specialists. They said, the Duncan area belongs to the moist, let me see if I can move this, there we go. The Duncan area belongs to the moist maritime coastal Douglas fir biogeoclimatic subzone. And the
Wow.
wetlands, yeah, it's actually very technical. And the wetlands that can be found there are primarily swamps and open water wetlands, simple marshes. Judging by the description of the site in comparison with satellite footage, I believe that the wetland the class is concerned with is a swamp. The swamp type found in this area is a western red cedar, sword fern, skunk cabbage swamp. So someone that just goes through this area and thinks, oh, there's a few puddles and some weeds, it's actually not. It's very technical and a beautiful ecoclimate that we have there. So I do want to highlight what they've said just so you can see how special this little spot actually is. So another way I want to show you how special this is I want to actually take you on a virtual nature walk. So I'm going to take you with a video through the area, put it to some music, just to make it a little more interesting. If you can hear my voice over the music, I will say a few things as we're walking through. And if you can't hear me, that's fine. I'll just let you watch the video. Can you see it okay? So this is the beginning of site 1 that we're walking through now, where it's a bit shadier and cooler. There's actually a great variety of native species in this area. But you can see here there's a temporary fence that's been put up. Here's some alders all along the right side, alder trees. And if my camera was here, you could see lots of species such as giant horsetail and ferns, lots of berry bushes, western red cedars there along the left side. What else? There's ocean spray, all sorts of really neat species in there. Here's the water body. I've seen frogs and fish in there. This is just part of it. You'll notice nothing really grows under those cedar trees. It's because the soil is quite acidic and very compact there, but I might try to, I've been advised to try to plant some ferns maybe through there, keep activity down. Now I did want to point out all the ivy that's in the back there. We'll have to pull that out. It's invasive, the English. To the right here, we have another space that was highly trafficked, I suppose is the right word. It was stomped on a lot by people, so we fenced that off, but it's just a temporary fence so far. Now I've stopped the music just so you could maybe hear. It's a pileated woodpecker, and it was eating insects off the coarse woody debris here, which is so amazing. Just shows you how you should really leave those fallen trees alone. It's a big, huge, they say that dead trees are more alive than they are when they're living because they have so many creatures inside of them. You can see the rich variety of different species in there now that it's spring. We've skunk cabbage there. And then here we're coming on to site 2 after we cross this bridge, where you can see the microclimate's going to get warmer and sunnier. Here we're looking into the main body of water over the bridge. You can really see it. Oh, and some berry bushes, lots and lots of berries, such as salmon berries, and elderberry, blackberry, raspberry, all sorts of food actually inside of here. Here's the main water body. There are some invasive grasses, but in general, it's a fairly healthy water body. I've already seen quite a bit of life through there. Here's some bindweed along the fence we'll have to pull out. Lots of dandelions, also good for eating. And lots of healthy trees as well. So again, this is site 2, where the microclimate is different. It's warm and sunny. And you do see many different species here than you did in the shady areas. The fence is a bit tattered. It does do its job, keeping people out though. Here's some ivy. Again, we'll have to pull out along the fence. Horsetail. We're going to come up upon some stinging nettle, which you can make tea out of. It's also very healthy, as long as you pick it the right way so it doesn't sting you. Generally, you want to eat the young leaves, the first 4 pronged leaves, and picking it from the bottom will ensure you don't get stung. So that's it. That's the end. And we'll go back to my presentation. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So the why. Why are we doing this? It's really about place-based education, where the students are learning with inquiry-based questions, and it's student learning in an environment where they can ask questions in real time, right? In areas where they can connect with nature and connect with their community and see the problems that are happening in real time. So education, of course, is a big part of this, but also we really want to decrease the unwanted activity and increase the wanted activities, such as people who might be homeschooled or in different schools, or different community members that want to use the space to learn and to connect with nature and find out why this place is important and other places like that. So then there, of course, is this conservation aspect of it. Why was it that we were going to tear it down in the first place? Why can't we, as a community, see really the importance of places like this? And I think it's just because maybe we haven't been educated as to the importance of even these little tiny ecosystems that you would think are insignificant are actually hugely significant, and together in a chain they make a bigger picture of the beauty of this valley. So here's a picture of a girl. She's planting a maple tree. We're going to be doing that as well, planting lots of species in this area, native species, of course. All right, so who is involved? So far, it's Duncan Christian School. Other schools will be involved, I'm hoping, and community members as we get this off the ground and people start to see what we're doing in that area. I think that it'll be used quite a bit more. Here's the different partners. We've got Duncan Christian School, Couch and Sportsplex, the Couch Valley, of course, and on this right side here, we have a picture of Ducks Unlimited. All right, so when are we doing this? It's already started. We started in September, and it's a 3-year project. So this year, we've got some just very primitive kind of goals, such as identifying what is out there, and then the technical stuff we'll be getting into in the next 2 years. So year 1, we've really just been identifying what's out there. And Drew Cooper said he was quite busy and his budget was eaten up with different projects. So it was really just figuring out, okay, what's in that area? What were the plants and what are the animals that we're looking at and what do we have to work with? What are the invasive species? And in environmental monitoring, I was actually working as a biologist in an environmental monitoring company before I was a teacher. And basically what that means is that if you take a data set of the different plant and animal species in an area over time, you will see if there's any changes. So you'll see, okay, does the biodiversity increase or does it decrease over time? And what kind of actions have we been doing or have we not been doing that might be causing that to happen? And so really this is the main focus of the environmental monitoring section of my biology class, now called Life Sciences, is how will the species be changing after we plant more native species and after we put up some infrastructure to try to encourage new life in that area? How will the species change over time? And that's environmental monitoring. And we're also doing water quality tests to see how the water quality might change when you're putting plants in the water systems that clean the water. So we're pulling invasive species, we're planting native species, we're putting up bird and bat houses to try to encourage new, obviously the growth of birds and bats. And we're also going to put a friendship bench. The grade 9s are going to build it for us, and we're going to put that out there so people can rest in that area and take a look at all the beautiful things. Year 2, we're going to continue on with the same things, except we're also going to put up information signs, and we're probably going to keep needing to do some more pull and plant, but we're going to continue on with the environmental monitoring every single year so that we can get a really good data set going. So the infrastructure, though, is really what we're working on in year 2. And then in year 3, we've got a website coming up with interactive activities for different school groups and for the public. And so the idea here is that students at school, maybe in the elementary school at Duncan Christian School, or maybe in the high school at Couch and Secondary, or maybe Francis Kelsey, somebody could pull a lab off of our website and go to this natural area and use it to complete some of their learning outcomes. Sorry, my daughter's in here. Okay, so the other thing we want to do in the 3rd year, hopefully, is put a viewing platform and do more, of course, environmental monitoring of the area. All right, so what do we need to do yet? So we need to continue on our environmental monitoring, put up infrastructure, and do technology and community engagement. So go through those things and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so environmental monitoring, what are we looking at? We're looking at the flora, so the plants in the area. We're getting a data set. It's already got hundreds of species, believe it or not. I'm not a plant specialist. I have an app on my phone. It's called Picture This. If you just click and point it to any plant, it's amazing. It'll tell you what it is. And I've confirmed those species with different specialists, so I know my phone's working properly. But the data set highlights the different native species and the invasive alien species. And my phone doesn't do that, but my students have done that. So we've looked at which ones we need to pull and which ones would be good to plant. Water quality, we've seen lots of different properties in the water body, and I'll show you that in a minute. The fauna, the animal species, we're looking at what's inside the sediment in the aquatic setting, so the water. We're looking at what's on top of the sediment in the water. And this is actually what my environmental monitoring company called Biologica did. You'd be surprised at how much lives inside that sediment. And when you look at them, they're so amazing. You can see all sorts of larval, different insects. Again, I'm not an insect specialist, but they're fascinating. So we'll have all that data up on the website as well. We also have a fair number of animals within that area that you can just see walking through, such as the pileated woodpecker you saw in the video. We have a resident owl. Let's see, there's fish and frogs and giant water bugs. I'll show you that in a second. And then garbage, we're going to collect garbage. There's still needles and things in there, unfortunately, but Cowichan Sports Box is very quick to pick those up. They do a garbage sweep every morning, so there's not very much garbage to be picked up by the students, and we will never obviously touch needles. They would always come and do that for us. But any garbage that we do collect that's safe to collect, we will take a tally of what we're finding. Now, here's some of the creatures, the insects on the top here that you might find inside the sediment, and I have seen them already, so I know they're there. These are like the bottom level consumers, right? And the fish will eat these, and then birds will maybe eat the fish, and it just goes up on the food chain. So these are lower level, but if these die off, then you're in trouble. And they were talking about, these are the creatures they were talking about in the river, Cowichan River, that are declining. If these base level organisms decline, then the fish decline and everything else declines. So they're really important, and they're good indicator species of the health of that ecosystem. On the far left, we have an alder tree. And on the bottom left, we have that pileated woodpecker. In the middle, we have elderberry. And then here on the right, we have a horsetail and a berry of sorts. I think it's a raspberry or a blackberry, but there's lots of different species over there. Here we have a picture of a water sample, and in the bottom, we have a picture of a giant water bug. I don't know if anyone's seen those or even knew that they existed here, but they do. And when I was researching them, they're very large. I wouldn't even be holding one because they have this amazingly long and powerful proboscis that they put inside of its victim, and then they spit, basically inject a digestive enzyme into that victim, such a fish or a frog or whatever it may be, and then it digests that organism and it resucks it up afterwards. So it's kind of a nasty bug if you get bit by it, but it's also really cool that we found this. We didn't find it alive, we found it dead beside the water column, but they do come out of the water at night and fly around looking for mates and things. So that was a really cool find. Here's some of the data. I won't go into it in great length, but I just wanted to show you quite quickly here. We have been finding at Site 1 more native species, that shaded area, and Site 2 a few more alien species. And I think this just goes with that edge effect. You find generally more invasive alien species along the edge, such as broom and that kind of thing, of an area, whereas if an area is sort of sheltered within a natural site, you'd find generally more native species. Site 1 has a little bit more plant richness. Again, the amount of species there, it's a little bit richer than Site 2. And here's all the water quality. So we have, this isn't a great scale because it doesn't show them individually, but I just wanted to give you an overall picture of what we saw, what we're looking at. So the turbidity, how cloudy the water is, it was fairly healthy. The pH was pretty good. It was around 6.5. The temperature was healthy. The dissolved oxygen was good. The nitrates and the nitrites are low, which is a good thing. The phosphates, though, were a little bit high, and I'll get into that in a second. The TDS, conductivity, alkalinity, hardness, copper, iron, and chlorine. And so on year one, maybe this isn't too interesting, but over the years, as we do environmental monitoring, it'll get more and more interesting to compare this data. So the phosphates are interesting because, if I can move this, I've got a quote here. I've been doing some research on phosphates. I know that phosphates are pollutants and that they run off from urban pollution into the watersheds. And I've always associated it as being kind of a bad thing because they increase algae productivity, which then decreases the oxygen in water. But this is a natural site for cleaning water. So what happens is runoff comes into a wetland, and the wetlands, through different processes with the plants and with the sediments, they actually clean the phosphates and nitrates out of the water. And then the water then flows out from the wetlands into different areas, into different bodies, and of course then into the ocean. And so it says wetlands are often described as filtering out pollutants from water, acting as nature's kidneys, which is really interesting, and even more reason to protect these wetlands, even the small ones, which are super significant in cleaning water bodies. So the infrastructure that we want to do is build bird and bat houses, fences along the trail. You saw the kind of makeshift fences so far, but if we had fences that were fairly basic but permanent, then I think it would look better and keep traffic out of the areas that we planned. We're going to have a friendship bench there, so you can spend some time looking at the different animals and just appreciating the area. And I want to have informative signs and potentially like a lookout. So let's go through that really quickly here. Here is the sign that we have so far. It just says, ecological sensitive environment, please stay on gravel pathway. There's a few more notes there, but what I want to do is turn that kind of sign into one like this. And you've seen them, they're all over the parks here. But basically this would be a fantastic thing to have in that little area, showing all of the life that we see, all of the data, and showing the First Nations perspective and the story behind this area. And I think if we did that, people would really get an appreciation and love for this place. And even myself, I didn't really let my kids go in that area because I was nervous about people being in there or needles being in there. But if we had information there and we had fences and we showed people through signs that this place is actually really significant and beautiful, then I think people would use it. And the more people that would use it, the less poor activity would be there. So here's an idea of a fence that I would like to use, just a basic fence, doesn't have to be exactly like that, but something like you see in the parks of the natural wood that keeps people out of ecologically sensitive areas. It's really important, I think, in this area. Here we have bird houses. I've already got one that I bought from the DCS school auction, but I'll need some more, and I'll need some bat houses. This is one from WWF, which you can purchase or you can build yourself. I would like signs that show the different species we've seen there, with the First Nations perspective there. And then here is an actual resident owl that lives there. It's a barred owl. It's quite beautiful, and the maintenance personnel say that in the early morning you can see the owl take down rabbits and things. So it's definitely actively feeding in that area. There was even talk of perhaps naming the owl, which would be kind of cute. Okay, technology and community engagement. So this is the last part of this, but it's also, I think, one of the most exciting parts, because if we have a central hub, a website where people can go to, they can learn about the area. I'll have all of my data there so that it can be criticized or added to and used. And I'll have different labs and different lectures of the area. So let's say you want to host a nature walk through the area. I have a wealth of information already, so you could just take the take the paper or the resource and you could go through that area and point out all the different things that are ecologically or environmentally interesting. And it can be used to check off learning criteria. I know that the elementary school could use it and have used it, and the high school certainly can use it in various ways. So I'll show you how this would look. Here's an ethology lab that I did in this area. What we had to do, what I wanted to do was see the geese here in this field, which is just right beside the natural area. There's lots of geese. They were there a month ago, a month to 2 months ago, and they were feeding in this area and acting in this area with each other. And so I got the students to go out there with an ethology lab or an animal behavior lab and write down the different activities that they saw the geese doing. However, we couldn't really see through all the brush on this side of the natural area, so we had to go down Lakes Road in order to see them, which is a little bit risky because it's right beside the road there and it's not very quiet or nice. So what I would like to do is to have something like this lab posted on that website where people can print it off and just use it. As a teacher, it's actually a challenge to find really good resources sometimes for teaching, and I would like to just have these sorts of resources for free up on that website where people can feel free to use this area. And they can, of course, if they develop labs in this area, they can post their own labs so that we have this community kind of wealth of knowledge and activities that students can use. And this is a lookout from a different lake in Nanaimo, or a different swamp, I believe it is, in Nanaimo. But it has a lookout where you can see through into the water body. And I think it would be nice to have a lookout like that through the nature park into the field so that you can do labs like this. So perhaps a nice little lookout like that would be good. Okay, First Nations perspective. A huge part of what I want to do in this area is include First Nations perspective and traditional ecological knowledge and plant uses. This is a real passion of mine, and I think it's a really important thing in our community, especially because it can be used to see the different plant uses. I guess I didn't say that quite right, but it can be used as an area where you could not harvest, but look and see what plants you could harvest to eat. There's lots of different things in here that you can make as tea and salves and food. And my friend Fred Rowland, he took me on a nature walk through this area and showed me all sorts of different plants and their uses. So if you're ever interested in that information, I will have it posted on that website eventually, but you could always email me and ask me what kinds of things are in this area that were ecologically and traditionally or culturally important to him. It was fascinating. We spent literally an hour in there just talking about the different ways that you can use those plants. So he was impressed with the amount of native species in there that you can use that are thriving. So the next steps, this year I want to pull invasive species. We're going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks, planting as well. And then we're going to continue on with biological monitoring. I still need to look at my invertebrates, the little tiny insects inside the water column. I have to put bird and bat houses up, and we're going to put that bench in there hopefully this year, and hopefully put up some proper fencing as well. I'm sure I won't get to the informative signs this year because we only have a couple more months. But next year I would like to go ahead with the signs and probably the fencing as well next year. So yeah, that'll most likely be in the beyond section, but as well beyond yearly environmental monitoring, maintenance of the area such as garbage and pulling invasives and further planting, more infrastructure, and the website. So we do have some money to do this. I have $500 from WWF, plus my students have been awesome about doing all the bottle returns at our school. This is my student Sebastian, and we've raised $320 so far, but we have a goal of $500 to match the WWF. We're calling it Bottles for Plants. So we have enough money to buy lots of native plants in there. And Ducks Unlimited and Fred Roland have given me a nice list of plants to plant in there that would be really healthy for building infrastructure, natural infrastructure there. So we need professional advice, science and technology, community involvement, and 3 years or so. But the beauty of this project is that it's ongoing. It'll always be ongoing. The maintenance part of it, the pulling, the garbage, the environmental monitoring, the learning. It's just an ongoing project that's going to get more and more sophisticated as we go along. And the final conclusions here, I think it's really important. The key here is biodiversity. The more plant diversity that you have, the more habitat. And the more habitat you have for animals, the more wildlife, of course. And the more wildlife, the richer the soil. And it all contributes to a healthy ecosystem. So our overarching key, of course, is biodiversity. And if we educate ourselves on the importance of this area and its biodiversity, we seek to increase its health, and we can conserve it and educate people from it. And so, of course, that education piece and just our connection with nature all comes into the picture, and it forms a beautiful win-win situation. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Katie. There is lots to explore here. I'm going to be sharing your email address with the group later in the chat if you like, or you can pop it in the chat so people can copy and paste it if they have further questions and collaborations. And I'm going to ask you all to hold your questions just till the end, because we want to allow some time for Nora and Jasmine to share their perspective on the planting projects they're doing, and then perhaps we can tie it all in together. Thank you so much, Katie. There's a lot to digest here. It's good, it's exciting. All right, so I'm going to, when you stop your screen sharing, I will transfer the co-host to Nora and give her a chance to tell her story. Okay, let me just do the tech part here. Okay.
You don't have to do any.
Oh, that's right. You're all set. Okay, that's right. You're area 5.
And not only that, but I'm not very technical, so I have nothing to share
okay.
other than me. So when Kim asked me to just chat a little bit, I can chat about gardening till the cows come home. So because I'm a bit of an obsessive gardener. And I have to be honest, when I started on my gardening journey a long time ago, it wasn't with the thought of pollinators or the environment or anything. It was to have a beautiful garden. It's my creative outlet. But serendipitously, it turns out that the things that I want in my garden are also the things that pollinators and birds and everything want in a garden as well. So, I think that Katie touched on that just a few minutes ago. You need diversity, and I'm a bit of a collector. There was a time when people said, "Oh, plant in drifts," and I have a drift of one because I like different plants, and I like to plan out a garden that has a lot of color and interest all year long, not just in the spring or not just in the summer or the fall. So that's what I kind of go for. If I was more technical, I would share with you a couple of pictures of my garden. But if you want, you can always get in touch with me. I'm happy to share one-on-one. But I think the thing I wanted to get across is to plan your garden. And every garden is a beautiful garden. But do your research. Like when you're picking plants, like we moved from a half an acre lot that we'd been at for almost 20 years that was definitely a work in progress. I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't do research. Things like, if you see a plant that you like in a nursery and it says, vigorous, that's a red flag. You want to make sure that you're getting a plant that's not going to be a thug and take over the rest of garden bed. So do your research. You want to make sure about, again, as Katie was talking about, shade and sun. So make sure that you're picking a plant that's appropriate for where you're wanting to put it. Also look, and this is the beauty part of it, look at textures, look at color combinations. Look at when it's going to flower. Is it going to flower in the spring? Is it going to flower? How long is it going to flower? And that's the thing about having interest in your garden all the time, is because unfortunately there's many, obviously, so many perennials to choose from out there, but most of them last a couple of weeks at best. So, our season is at least, our spring summer season is 4 or 5 months long. So you want flowers and that will come on earlier, and then as they finish, something new is always happening. And I just remember watching a gardening program eons ago, where the lady was saying, she learned that because flowers do only last a short time, look at the foliage, what do the leaves look like? So getting variegation in your leaves, and then the different textures. For example, something like if you have a shady garden, hostas, which are very lush with big leaves, and a maidenhair fern beside it, with its very light, airy, leaf structure, and taller, things like that. So you want to, think in your mind's eye, well, what might that look like together? And like I say, the pollinating part and the birds, and that's what I found after I'd been gardening for a few years, that, oh, gee, look at all these butterflies I have, and look at all the bees, and look at all the birds that come, because, if you build it, they will come. And that's the nice part about it. So looking for things that will attract them will create a lovely environment in your backyard for the birds and the bees and the pollinators as well. One of the things I was kicking myself for this year, and while I've been planning this new garden that we're at, I had a mason bee house at our other place, but I left it there. And I just never thought about picking up another one. And of course, it wasn't too long ago, we had tons of mason bees looking for homes, and like I didn't have a house for them. So, but they can find their own homes as well. But definitely that's something that I'm going to be picking up, soon, and hopefully next year I'll be able to utilize it, because the mason bees are just about finished right now. But I'm happy to take any questions. That's about it.
Nora, and once again, I'll ask all of you to hold your questions. We're going to carve out some time at the very end of the meeting, but right now we're going to also hear from Jasmine here at Shawnigan Lake School. So thank you so much to all our presenters, and Jasmine, take it away.
Hey, hello, thanks for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, one second. Is it up?
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, so I'll try to go through this kind of quickly, but hopefully I'll be exhaustive with what I have going on here at the Shawnigan Lake School. But first, I'll just introduce myself really quickly. My name is Jasmine, and I have my Bachelor's of Science in Applied Biology from UBC in Food and the Environment. And here, I was going to quickly talk just a little bit about my background in garden-based learning, and how I've ended up here at Shawnigan Lake School. On the right is a picture of me at the Delta Farm Root School, which is an academy program based from the Delta School District. And at Delta, they, through the summers, hire students, grades 10 through 12, to work on their 1 acre organic schoolyard farm. And I was lucky enough to manage that program for the last 4 growing seasons. And on the left is me in the grow dome here at Shawnigan Lake School with my group of, I'll call them, with my students. We had just been seeding. And so I was going to talk about what I did at Delta, just because here I am new, and I started here in February, and a lot of the things that I did that in Delta that I believe might be kind of areas to focus on bringing to Shawnigan are things that I did there, and I hope to grow with that. So I developed a program at Delta called SOIL, which is an acronym for Student Opportunities for Youth Leadership. And this was a 6-week work term for students to learn about agriculture, and they were actually paid a stipend, which was through a grant. So the way that I organized this was I actually had 30 students, and I had 2 other farm supervisors with me, and they were each given 90-foot row or garden bed to maintain. And this included doing all the weeding, making sure that they're the ones that noticed any pest problems. And of course, we were monitoring as well, but just to make sure that students felt that connection to the land and that kind of ownership. And then, of course, we also did some preservation. We did some canning, pickling, and jamming of our different vegetables and fruits. And we went to different markets to learn about marketing and communication skills. I just wanted to mention this because a lot of this will hopefully be happening here. And yeah. So I will explain the grow dome. It is new for me, and it is definitely a different way of growing compared to the 1 acre schoolyard market garden. But we have on the left a graphic of the undersoil air flow system, which there's pipes that are going under the soil that are connected to solar paneled fans. And this allows for airflow beneath the soil. And through the summer months, this cools down the soil. And through the winter, this actually makes the soil warmer because the air is warmer than beneath the ground. And on the right, I have a photo or a graphic of the pond that is inside of the grow dome. And it shows fish in there, but we do not have fish in ours at the moment. And then in the middle is also a picture of our pond, which has duckweed on top. That's the green. And so because water changes temperature slower than air, the pool helps to maintain a temperature in the dome that is quite stable. So there's not huge fluctuations, and in the winter, the ground, there'll be no freezing. Won't become freezing in the dome, even if I don't turn on any of the lights. And in the summer, the water temperature kind of stops the dome from getting too hot. I also have 2 fans that are blowing inwards, and then I have 2 vents on top. So this allows for airflow, which is incredibly important when growing. And yes, so this has been just a huge learning curve for myself. This is a new way of growing for me. I also have lights, which are specifically the wavelength that helps plants grow more, kind of less extra foliage and less growing tall. So, however, now that it is warmer out, I'm noticing that I don't really need the lights at all, given that the temperature of the dome is hitting that 25 to 30 degrees Celsius without use of any lights. So again, this is very much a learning process, and yeah, and I'm excited to share what we do end up growing and how the space looks when it's filled with beautiful plant life. So the goals right now for the dome, and you'll see on the right, I have a photo of one of the beds which we've planted zucchini. I have kale, spinach, arugula in there, in that bed in particular. But the goals for the dome is to connect the students to food and the whole process of going from seed to harvest. And something I've learned since kind of getting into this field is that often, and me even being, I think, in a generation where a lot of my friends don't even garden or know about different crops and how they go to fruit, just learning how this process happens and how we even get our food in the grocery store, how long it takes. I think one of the most interesting things is when you plant something and you say, well, we won't be picking this for 4 months, and the realization, or if I plant a head of cauliflower, explaining that one seed is only one cauliflower. It's just such an interesting perspective, the time that goes into the food that we eat. Especially since in our grow dome, we are doing everything organically. So also we put in that energy into doing the weeding and making sure we provide our plants enough water and nutrients through compost. So also, because the grow dome is such a unique space, we have kind of different technology in there, which kind of exposes students to different types of opportunities in the agriculture sector. Maybe beyond what we generally imagine for farming. A lot of students haven't been in a greenhouse before. And this is definitely a unique experience. And one of the cool things, especially this year, is that in the beginning, we didn't all know, or sorry, not all, we were still kind of in the building blocks of the dome, and the students really were able to be involved in different things, such as putting the lights up and understanding how the fans help to add the air circulation and kind of those different aspects. So one of my major passions is planting or systems that are good for Earth and actually help to minimize climate change. And so we've really talked a lot about promoting awareness for different environmental impacts of the global food system and how we can participate in a more local system. And we've done that by going to the farmers market and talking a lot about what different produce is available in this time of the year. And then another important thing that we're doing is we're providing different produce to the kitchen. And so, sorry, that I guess is more of a long-term goal because we did just do our initial planting. So some projects that we've done so far, we've built a 3-tier vermicomposter to get some casts for our garden from the red wiggler worms. We've done soil analyses around campus. We have a sandy loam at our school. And we've learned about crop planning, what goes into that, how we do a different crop rotation. I've talked about, making sure that we have people to eat the food that we grow. And we're lucky at our school that we always will have people to eat our foods. But when doing a crop plan, it's an important aspect, and I think something to mention. Like I said, we visited the Duncan Farmers Market and talked about why we were seeing the different foods we were seeing, especially in regards to produce and actually added value goods. Since we went a little bit before the main spring season, we were seeing lots of lettuces and some different greenhouse goods, and then also added value goods. And we talked about why in the late winter we would be seeing those types of things because of what's available in the Cowichan Valley. We've also inoculated mushroom spores, which is going to be exciting when we get to harvest our mushrooms. And we've seeded, water transplanted, and weeded And I said we've pickled radishes, but we're actually doing that this week. So, because it's one of our first crops, and I thought we should learn how to do some pickling. So one thing that I think is very interesting about food systems education and garden-based learning is that it can connect to so many different areas of education in the BC curriculum. And I think Katie also talked a lot about place-based education, and that is what this is. So when we do different soil analyses and we look at and we think about what chemical processes happen in the soil, and I've talked a lot with my group of students about the nitrogen cycle, and we've also talked about eutrophication, which Katie talked about, and kind of how do we not add too much fertilizer in a growing system where we're creating different problems in different areas. So like I said, that's a science issue, and in the greenhouse we will be having to pollinate by hand, probably, especially in the winter, because we'll be able to keep that 25 degrees throughout the winter. So we'll be able to grow all year, and this will actually allow us to grow different tropical plants. I have passion fruit and guava right now that will be going in on Monday. But so yeah, we'll be having to pollinate, which is really interesting, and students will learn about plant breeding through that. Also, in the social studies, we have already started talking about different social issues related to food sustainability, and this also connects to the UN Sustainable Development Goals related to zero hunger, responsible consumption and production, and climate action. So, and I've also talked to the grade 9 career and health education classes about eating an array of colors and how eating food that is more fresh. So generally speaking, and I do like to emphasize eating locally. Eating locally means your food has gone into you faster and it's probably been picked at a riper stage. So that just in itself means it's higher in nutrients. And if we eat as many colors as we can, we're automatically getting more vitamins, a bigger array of vitamins. We kind of talk about, for me at least, I talk about nutrition in that way. Especially, I actually started my education at UBC thinking I was going to be a dietitian. So I was studying nutritional sciences for my first 2 years, and I fell in love with agriculture and the impact that agriculture has not on just our health, but on food that is grown, that we grow has on our own health, but also on the environment. And for me, that was just a bridge. So I try to bridge that when I talk about nutrition. Anyways, and then we've also done some environmental sciences, especially soil sciences in particular. That's another thing I studied a lot in school. So some outcomes that I hope to see is that we are able to connect to the community. Seeing different projects that are happening, I think, is very important. Like I said, we've done the Duncan Farmers Market. Of course, in this year of COVID, it's different. We're not able to really venture, as much as maybe in the future, or in the past, that is. But hopefully we'll be able to see different projects that are happening in Cowichan, as there's just so many fantastic farms here and different projects too that we can definitely learn from. I've talked about understanding what is produced locally at different times of the year, and that is definitely already been an outcome. Learning about greenhouse technology and about tropical plants, and just having our students feel a sense of ownership over the dome, which I can attest is already just a fantastic outcome. I just love it when students get so excited about what seeds we're going to be planting next. I had one student say we should put a lock on the organic garden, which is, so on top of the dome, we also have an outdoor organic garden with 17 raised beds. And while the dome was finishing construction, which was great timing because in February, March, and we were able to do all of our outdoor plantings for the spring. And anyways, the student said we should we should lock the organic garden so that no one steals our food. It's just that ownership that is just such a great thing to see. Yeah, so that's kind of what I had for you today.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, and to all our presenters. I'm sure we're bursting with questions. I would love to allow time for that. And also, if you want to weave in a happy or sad moment that you'd like to share in terms of your personal news. But thank you for everyone who could be here. And now's our time to ask questions and wrap up.
I guess I have a question. First of all, a happy buck. I work with Jasmine. We work at the same school, and it's a community of about over 800 people. And I learned a lot from a colleague that I still didn't know what was going on. So thank you for that journey, Jasmine, and thank you for being with us this morning. What you heard at the outset, Kim put out an appeal for Francis Kelsey that they need people to look after the gardens in the summer. What are our plans for looking after the space in the summer?
Well, I'll actually be here all summer, so I guess I'm the main point of contact. One of the reasons I actually talked a bit about soil is because my long-term, hopefully, goal will be to have a summer student program here. I've already talked to Jamie Anthony about there are some students that will be working in grounds this summer. And I've asked for a student to work with me. So for now, it'll be mostly me and whoever I can get to help out. But like I said, in the future, I would love to have a student work program of some sort here.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Jasmine.
And Katie, I just want to say too, with the public entering and using the space and being more aware that Pokemon Go players just absolutely love that area, and I hope that we are respectful of the different things going on, and we will learn more as we use that space, sounds like, because of the signage you have planned. And so just, respecting that's part of litter gathering, was respecting that even ditches have ecosystems. Like all the soil everywhere has such tiny life that's busy doing what it was made to do.
Thank you. Yes, it'll be good.
Well, I found this so informative. I enjoyed everything that was being spoken about, and little things came. I was actually making notes as each of you were talking. Little things came to me, and I wondered is there, Nora was talking about being able to see pictures of her garden, and I have a couple of things that I would love to share, photographs of a Mason bee house that my husband has built out of a piece of tree on our property that we just saved a number of different pieces that were the right size, and it's being used now. So we're really excited about that. Just little things that kind of came up from all of the talks. How would we share? Is there a general
yes,
email?
I'm just putting it in the chat that at our website, it would be great. I can post links to all of the different stories and paste your text from your emails together with any photos that you send me, and it can just be a spin-off from this discussion that for follow-up information and anything else, like for example, Katie, your YouTube walkthrough would be wonderful if we had that link. Nora, your photos and more about the Grow Dome plans. And Dinah, I know you've been working on just quietly behind the scenes beautifying our village because you adopted the planters along the way in front of many of the businesses. And so we'd love to just link to that. And Crystal and I are hoping to tackle Masons. We have plans for refurbishing that sign even. I'm waiting to tour it with her and discuss more.
I'm really excited to hear that you are doing that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we were working on the planters in the village the other day. There's just two of us decided to do this last year, and Jenny showed up while we were doing it. She goes, "This is so fantastic!" And I have to say that just gave us such a boost, because you feel like, oh well, we're doing nothing, right? And then someone comes along and acknowledges you, and you just feel more motivated. So that was great, Jenny.
Good.
Yeah, I also have, I was given seeds from Marcy Green. So these are from last year, and she just hopes that they will still be able to germinate and make our spaces beautiful. So, and Thrifties donated, gave me a deal actually on some expired bulbs and things that had flowered, and they were just going to toss them right after Easter. And I'm like, no, 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 rescue. I have a bin full of droopy looking daffodil fronds, but I know those bulbs will come back next year.
See, that's an interesting thing, to have somebody go around to various places like others' shops and find out what sorts of things like that do get thrown out, or whether Dinters has extras that would and then having that as an available resource on the website for people who are needing to beautify areas.
As part of today's meeting, I was able to put Katie in touch with Bernie Dinter himself. And so he's going through her native plant list to see what they can supply from their growing. So she'll be speaking again on Monday. If you have someone you'd like to refer this presentation to, Monday noon with the Duncan Rotary Club. So we're really looking forward to that, Katie.
Great.
Yeah, thank you everyone for this collaborative spirit. Would anyone like to share a last happy, sad, and by paying it forward, normally in Rotary clubs, it's a way for us to gather extra funds for the coffers, but I just usually say go spend it in the community, go buy someone a coffee, and what Hillary said, you're happy or you're sad buck. So my sad buck is that the deer decided to eat some of my creeping rock plants. And I had just purchased them from the Goldstream Heights nursery. These gorgeous, well, you saw it in the email if you got the email, that one of them is completely chewed.
No.
So sad. Mama deer was very hungry. I'm sure babies are on the way.
I have a happy buck. The nothing to do with gardening, though I'm always happy about gardening. But Andrew and I actually get our COVID shot tomorrow. It's my Mother's Day present.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers on the call. It's again a COVID Mother's Day, so we're just hoping to stay connected however we can to the kids and the parents that we both biologically are related to, and the ones we've adopted in our hearts that are part of our extended family of friends.
Well, my sad buck, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Is that I was going to get my vaccine tomorrow, but I got bit by a tick 2 days ago.
Oh.
And it is the type of tick that carries Lyme's disease. So I found it right away, and my husband's very good at taking ticks off. So it was still alive and it was not engorged, and it's going in to be tested. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because just be very cautious, because the ticks are everywhere. And I'm not concerned, because I know that whatever happens, whatever the testing is that comes back, they can treat things very quickly. And of course, you catch it well in advance, it's fine. However, just be cautious, because they're out there.
For sure.
Thank you. Wow. So when will you be able to reschedule?
Because I might have to be taking, I am taking antibiotics. So I have to wait.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And would anyone else like to share as we wrap up? I'll be following up with each of our speakers to make sure that we can post our stories, and anyone else who would like to share photos before and after of the spaces that you're beautifying would be absolutely lovely to see. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we'll start to wrap up. I still always have to look for this button. So thank you. And you'll find this recording later at our YouTube channel for Shawnigan Rotary, and you can share that with your friends.